Welcome back to the Seeing Red MMA podcast here. I am your host, Dustin, and UFC on ABC5 is now in the books. Ilya Topuria completely dominates Josh Emmett in our main event here, and let's just dive right into it because like a lot of people said, this was a complete masterclass there. I mean, it was a unanimous decision. There was a 50-45, 50-42, and a 49-45 there. So completely won every single round there. Was just able to have the smoother boxing. I mean, his defense was on point, was throwing punches when he needed to. No wasted energy going into that fight either, so he wasn't overexerting himself. And when he was clipping Emmett, he was absolutely hurting him pretty bad there. Even though it took a while, especially in the first round, for him to kind of get going, he was making his reads, but once he finally made those reads, it was just downhill from there for Mr. Josh Emmett. And I mean, really, and what kind of performance would you want from a guy like this? I mean, he's now 14-0 in his professional career. Number 9 just took out the 5th-ranked featherweight in that division. So honestly, with Volkanovski clearing out most of the featherweight division, if he gets past Yair Rodriguez, I mean, who else is on that list to get a title shot other than Topuria? I mean, Max Holloway's already lost to Alexander 3 times. Arnold Allen just lost to Max. I mean, Josh Emmett just lost to Yair. Yair's about to fight Volkanovski, and there's a whole other laundry list of guys who could fight for the title but don't necessarily deserve it just yet. But, I mean, what an absolute masterclass. This guy is the truth. Even with his combinations in the pocket there, once he started getting going, he wasn't afraid to actually stay in the pocket and counter the shots that Emmett was throwing. And you could see just the torque that Topuria had on his left hook while he was throwing it. It was just pure violence there. I mean, every single shot he threw was super accurate, was so fast, had so much just snap to it. And it wasn't like, it just seemed like Josh Emmett was a step behind. And as soon as you thought Josh Emmett should start working the kicks, Topuria beat him to it, started working that lead calf kick there right to his front leg, which would be Emmett's left. So towards the end of the fight, you could see Emmett try and switch stances as well too, but it just wasn't enough to keep him away from Topuria in order to survive. I mean, he ended up making all 5 rounds, even though the doctor came in at the end of the 4th and was like, "Hey, man, your eye is like shut. Can you see? Do you want to keep going? Like, this is not good. This is not looking good for you." But Emmett, being the dog that he is, just bit down on his mouthpiece and went out for one more round. And when also another veteran move from Topuria as well too, realizing that Emmett's lost all 4 rounds and he's going to come out gun blazing. And we all know Emmett's still got the difference maker in his hands there. He can still put your lights out with one shot. Made an extremely veteran move by taking him down and basically controlling him until the fight was over, securing that win and literally winning all 5 rounds. Like, there wasn't a single part that Josh Emmett won. I mean, there might have been some exchanges that he got Topuria a little bit better in, but overall, I mean, Topuria ran away with that whole fight. It's hard to say anything other than that. So, I mean, I was a big Topuria fan before. I didn't think he was going to make it look this easy. I mean, this was a masterclass. I'm extremely impressed with what Topuria was able to do there, and very, very intrigued to see what his next fight should be. Me personally, I think he'd be better off with a guy like Arnold Allen just to get him to a clean 15-0 if he's able to get past a guy like Arnold. And then if you beat Arnold in spectacular fashion like you did to Emmett tonight, I say you move over to a title shot. It's only that simple. But I don't know what this means for Josh Emmett, though. I mean, he's getting up there in the age. He's longer in the tooth. Back-to-back losses to Yair, who was now the interim champ, and now number 10, or number 9, who just took your spot in the rankings. It's tough to say where Emmett goes. Is he still a threat? Absolutely, I think he's still a threat. I mean, the guy hits so hard. I mean, I think he can put anyone's lights out minus Max Holloway with one shot, but it's just hard to say who they give him. I mean, maybe a rematch with Cater? I don't even know. Maybe when Giga Chikadze comes back, you give him Josh Emmett, something like that. I don't know, but you give him favorable matchups as well, too. You give him somebody who maybe is just going to stand and bang with Josh Emmett, give him a fighting chance in order to land that power punch that we all know he's known for. But that being said, there's so much tape on Josh Emmett out there now. I mean, he's been fighting forever. He's also been in a couple 5-round fights now. There's a bunch of tape to go back on, and I mean, not to discredit him or anything like that, but I mean, he's very hook heavy. I mean, he throws a jab here and then, and maybe a straight right, but for most of the time, he's throwing hooks the majority of the fight there. So I can't imagine that his game's going to get super developed in the short time that he has left in the sport, being at the age that he is. But regardless of that, I mean, the man of the night, the man of the hour is Topuria. I mean, that man is dangerous, and I think he probably is your biggest threat to Volkanovski. Even though Volkanovski, I think, does handle Topuria pretty easily, I still think he's your biggest threat at featherweight. Because let's be real, I mean, you got Brian Ortega, Volkanovski beat. Max Holloway, Volkanovski beat. Josh Emmett, Volkanovski does bad things to Josh Emmett. Arnold Allen, Volkanovski does bad things to Arnold Allen. Who else is out there that is undefeated that you think can do well against Volk? And I think it's Topuria. I think he does well. I don't think he beats him. I think he makes it somewhat competitive. But at the same time, though, I don't think he makes it competitive enough to win the fight. But either way, we're not talking about too far down the line there. This is, I mean, Volk's fighting Yair in less than a month here. He's like in 2 weeks. So they're on the same timeline. Who knows? We could see them fighting later this year at the end of the year. Your co-main event, man, Macy Barber. Wow. She came out there and absolutely fought. She fought violently and like evil. Like she was trying to hurt Amanda wherever she really could. And I mean, Amanda did have some good spots in that fight where head and arm throws, but it wasn't enough to subdue Macy Barber or keep her from advancing throughout the fight there. But Macy Barber, she's just got a mean streak in her. I heard Dean Thomas say this, and it's actually a very good comparison. When Macy Barber gets you hurt, it's like Dustin Poirier. He's like a shark. When you smell blood in the water, they go after it. I'm literally quoting what Dean Thomas said. I didn't say it, he did, so I don't want to take the credit for it. But she was mean, and I guarantee they saw something in the fight there. He said head kick. Goes up top, lands a head kick against Amanda. Kind of pushes forward, lands another head kick against Amanda. And then clips her with the right hand that starts to wobble her. Gets close in. Amanda tries to tie up Macy Barber, clips her a few more times, get her on the ground, really hurt her, and then proceeds to just batter her on the ground. And I mean, not saying that she completely walked through. I mean, Macy Barber was bleeding out of her nose pretty bad as well, too. So, I mean, between both girls, they both got beat up pretty bad. But, I mean, Macy Barber got the better end of it. She actually got the win in the second round there. And, I mean, Amanda Ribas, she's good everywhere, too. I mean, she's a sneaky good fighter. And the fact that Macy Barber is now on a 5-fight win streak right now just goes to show how good she has come from where she started when she was claiming to be, I'm going to be the youngest female champion, all this other stuff. But I think now that she's finally gotten past that mark where she can no longer be the youngest champion because she's gotten older now, I think she's just kind of enjoying being a fighter and is growing as a fighter as well too, and getting better every time we see her go out there. So congrats on her. I'd like to see her get maybe a top 5 opponent, especially after a win like this. Unfortunately, Austin Lane and Justin Tafa ended in 30 seconds due to an eye poke, so not really much to talk about there. Unfortunately, Austin Lane, the former Jacksonville Jaguar, who was on the football team, didn't get to perform in front of Jacksonville without it going to a no contest, so that's unfortunate. But good fight that I was looking out for, David Onama versus Gabriel Santos. Man, I mean, this fight was a barn burner for as long as it lasted, but I actually had Santos winning this fight, and David Onama proved me wrong, hit Santos with a nasty uppercut late into the second round, put him out stiff, and then followed up on the ground there. I mean, it was a picture-perfect shot as well, too. So, I mean, with something like that, it's something to look out for because David Onama is really good. I mean, I knew he was good before, especially with the win over Gabriel Benitez, the fight with Nate Landwehr, so on and so forth. But against a guy I thought very highly of in Gabriel Santos to go out there and pull out the win like this, amazing. Congratulations to him. Very good. Now, another fight that only went one round, but it was a wild first round, was Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva. What a way to open up the main card there. I mean, you got Brendan Allen training out of Florida against Bruno Silva, the guy who was able to survive hooks and punches from Poatan there. So Brendan Allen gets in a firefight with Bruno Silva. Bruno was landing very heavy in that fight too, to the point where I was like, oh, he might get Allen out of there, because we've seen Allen get knocked out before. I mean, Sean Strickland did it. So I mean, a guy that hits hard like Bruno, I couldn't imagine why he wouldn't be able to. But Brendan Allen was a gamer. He stayed in the pocket there, ate some shots, gave some, and got the better of it. Dropped Bruno Silva late in the first round, and does what Brendan Allen does. Hops on your back and proceeds to choke you out with the rear naked. So once I saw that he was dropped and he went to the back, I knew that that's what the game plan was going to be, is that he's going to go straight for that choke. And he did, and proceeds to call out Izzy, calls out Chipotle for a sponsorship as well too, which I thought was pretty funny, and also called for a Louisiana card with Poirier as headliner, him as co-headliner, which I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that. That'd be a fun fight to have. Not them fighting each other, of course, just them on the same card in Louisiana. That'd be pretty cool. Then we get to the prelims. The headliner of the prelims, Neil Magny, got a split decision win over Phil Rowe. I mean, both very long and lengthy guys, good at distance striking there, but seems like Phil's game plan was to kind of just keep Magny up against the fence, but Magny was able to kind of get the better of those exchanges, comes out with a split decision. Kind of a boring fight, not going to lie. Same with Randy Brown and Wellington Turma. Not really a great performance by either of them. Randy Brown did get the unanimous decision against Turman, so good win, especially coming off a loss to Jack Della Maddalena. But Mateusz Rebecki, man, he starts low-key Radzhabov. I mean, I feel like we put maybe a little bit too much stock in Tajikistan, because it's like the third Tajikistan fighter I've seen fight in the last month. And Tajikistan in the last month is 1-2 in the last 3 fights. So, yeah, I mean, Rebecki is just a stocky Polish brawler, just short arms, stocky frame, throws everything from the hip. So, great win for him. I thought that was really vicious what he did, especially with the follow-up strikes. Tabitha Ricci absolutely dominated Jillian Robertson. I mean, Robertson did have some strikes in there, like some elbows in the clinch and whatnot, that did give her Ricci some trouble, but majority of the fight was just Ricci fighting on the outside there. When there was a takedown attempt, Ricci definitely had her hips all the way out, sprawling good, keeping the distance, making sure she's not exposed to any kind of a submission attempts there, but solid win for Ricci. She's still climbing that ladder at strawweight. Zumagulov, I'm going to call him that. Just I can't pronounce his first name, even though his last name's longer. Versus short notice opponent Joshua Van. Man, it has been a rough road for Zumagulov lately. I mean, how many fights has not gone his way, to the point where didn't even make it to the fight, just pullouts and injuries and you name it, just hasn't been able to get to the cage, and finally gets an opponent in the cage with them. Great hard fought fight. Split decision loss in Joshua Van's favor, which I'd agree with. I thought Joshua Van won, but man, it's been a tough road for Zumagulov, so I hope the UFC doesn't cut him or anything like that, because he is an exciting fighter when he's actually able to get in the cage. It's just, man, it's like he just can't catch a break with these split decisions or just these opponents that he's getting. So, unfortunately, that's the name of the game. We found out Trevor Peek absolutely sucks. I mean, we kind of knew just based off his striking he's kind of a wild man, but wow. Yeah, Chepe Marsico really exposed Trevor Peek there, especially with the tosses and whatnot, the ground game. Trevor Peek's tough, don't get me wrong, but I was not expecting him to be handled like this. I mean, there was some good exchanges just because Trevor Peek's a dog and he goes out there and fights, but yeah, did not have a good showing of his skills there. If we keep seeing that same Trevor Peek and he doesn't make some new tweaks to his game or doesn't evolve, I don't think we see Trevor Peek in the UFC for much longer, because that's not UFC caliber fighter, especially if your striking's not that great and your ground game's even worse. All you can do is hit hard. You're only going to make it so far in this business. Jamal Emmers versus Jack Jenkins there. Jack Jenkins with the split decision win, which I kind of agreed with. I kind of gave it to Jamal in the moment. Might have to go back and rewatch that fight. I mean, it was a very entertaining fight as well, too. So, I mean, wouldn't be a bad thing to go back and rewatch that specific one. But, yeah, I mean, Jack Jenkins, the Mullet King, he's on a tear right now, especially at featherweight. Australia's on the rise. I mean, they always have been for the last, I don't even know, like 5 years. How long has Izzy been in the UFC or Whitaker been the champ? I mean, 7 years. They've been on the rise there, and they kind of became a staple of MMA. So it's nice to see some of the younger talent coming into the UFC start to make a name for themselves rather than the guys that are already from Australia in the UFC rising to the top. I mean, we'd like to see that as well, too. But I like to see when guys like Robert Whitaker get the belt, beat guys like Yoel Romero, then Izzy comes along, then you start to see this influx of people from that side of the world start to make their way into the sport as well, too, and perform really well as along, too. So, I mean, kudos to Jack. Good win for him. I mean, like I said, don't agree that he won, but I'm glad he did. I'll tell you who absolutely sucks as well, too, is Cody Brundage. How do you get out wrestled by a human Chipotle bag? Like, what the hell was that? Like, didn't even knew that his scrambling was better on the ground. Knew that Dumas after the first round was like, all right, this guy's getting better with the wrestling exchanges. He's getting on top of me a lot easier than I'm able to keep him down on the ground. Let me kind of strike with him a little bit. Nope, I'm just going to keep going back to the wrestling, keep getting my back taken, keep getting on bottom, and hopefully I win, which is not the case. Cody Brundage is probably a C-tier fighter. Like, I'm talking like prelim Bellator fighter. He's not that good. And Dumas is not that good either. So the fact that you lost to a guy who's known as a striker in the way that you're supposed to be good as a grappler, it's not good. It's not a good sign. I don't think we see Cody Brundage in the UFC much longer. And, I mean, if Dumas can maybe get another win, it just extends his stay a little bit longer as well, too. But I don't see either of those guys lasting long in the UFC. I mean, unless they make some major changes to their game, it's not looking good. But one other thing I did want to take a look at as well is just the amount of strikes landed in the Emmett versus Topuria fight. So 89 strikes total landed for Josh Emmett, 171 for Ilia Topuria. Takedowns, 3 takedowns for Topuria, none for Emmett. 152 significant strikes for Ilia Topuria and 87 for Josh Emmett. So 89 strikes, 87 of them were significant. So that tells you that every single shot that Emmett threw was just balls to the wall. I'm throwing my absolute hardest trying to get you out of there. While Topuria, only about 20 of his strikes were probably the jab that you're seeing behind me right now, the leg kicks and whatnot. Everything else, not wasted energy, throwing the punches when he's supposed to be throwing them, and actually executing the way he's supposed to be executing there. And then the one knockdown in I believe it was the second round, he got the knockdown, I believe. Yeah, let's go with that. But, I mean, like I said, though, we've already stated enough. Ilia Topuria is he's a real guy. I mean, he's the guy's guy. He's out there. He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. I cannot wait to see what he does next, especially with the momentum after beating a veteran like Josh Emmett, who has been there, done that, who's been in some wars against Calvin Kattar, who's gotten his face shattered by Jeremy Stevens, who fought Yair Rodriguez. The guy has done everything, and Topuria made it seem like he shouldn't even have been in the same league as him. I mean, Topuria absolutely battered him, but that's the name of the game. New hungry lion comes in, takes out the old one. But that's pretty much it for me, guys. UFC ABC 5 is in the books. Next week, we have Sean Strickland versus Magomedov. I forget his first name, so let me get it pulled up real quick. It just has it Magomedov on the thing, but he's only got one fight in the UFC, and I don't know his first name. What is his first name? Come on. Abus. A-Bus. A-B-U-S. So, number 7, Sean Strickland versus unranked Abus Magomedov, who the only reason why he's getting a title shot is because he front-kicked Dustin Stolfus in the face. Damir Ismagulov versus Grant Dawson. Max Griffin returns against Michael Morales. R.I.P. Max Griffin. Ariane Lipsky, Melissa Gatto, so on and so forth. So pretty good fight night card. Kevin Lee's. Oh shit, Kevin Lee's back. Totally forgot about that. So we get Kevin Lee back in the UFC next weekend, a week from today. So keep an eye out for that. But, that's pretty much your whole card here. UFC ABC 5 on the books. Sean Strickland, Magomedov next week. Keep an eye out for that. But that is it for me today, guys. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at SeeingRedMMA. And like I always say, you guys have yourself a great rest of your day. Until next time, see ya.